people. And what we saw yesterday is an insult to the vast majority of tradies or people in the building industry who are not about wrecking, they're about building. Yesterday we saw 1,000, 2,000 people, many of whom behaved appallingly. They do not reflect, and they should not be seen to reflect, an entire industry. That would be unfair, that would be wrong. The number that is in some ways more important is that almost 90,000 people yesterday across our state went and got vaccinated. They know, as I know, that the way out of this is not violence, it's vaccination. That's the key. So why is construction having to go and get the jab? Why is vaccination compulsory in the construction industry? Well, today there are more coronavirus cases in construction than there are in aged care. There are more cases of coronavirus in the construction sector than there are patients with coronavirus in hospital across the whole hospital system. The key to that is, whether it's aged care workers or hospital workers, and indeed others, and the Deputy Premier will be out later today to announce other groups of workers in our community who are going to have to get the jab to keep our state safe. Those sectors are vaccinated, either fully or on the way to being fully vaccinated. Vaccination works. Vaccination is our pathway out of this. I thank all of those people who got vaccinated yesterday, who in their actions, not just in their words or their thoughts, but in their actions. The real demonstration yesterday was a demonstration of a state going and getting vaccinated, nearly 90,000 people. I know many people who work in this industry. The appalling conduct yesterday does not speak for them. It is not representative of them. The hundreds and thousands of people who are, in every sense of that word, builders. They're not wreckers, they're not vandals, they're builders. They build our state. I've got nothing but respect for them, and I don't think that they were in any way represented accurately, in any way, by the appalling conduct of some yesterday. That conduct's been called out. That conduct will be dealt with. I want to thank Victoria Police on behalf of all Victorians for putting themselves in harm's way to keep the rest of us safe, as they do every day. Every police family across our state will be anxious at this time to know that their loved ones are going out to do this important work. So by extension, I thank them also for their commitment and for their absolute determination to keep Victoria safe. As I throw to the Minister for Police, and then the Chief Commissioner can speak to you a bit in more detail, and then we'll take some questions. I just want to make this final point. We are so close. We are so close to meeting those vaccination targets at 70% double dose, 80% double dose, ending the lockdown, getting past this thing. Yes, it'll be a difficult time in our hospital system. We will see patients, but we are going to normalise this, and we are going to be open, and the days of lockdowns will be behind us. This sort of behaviour puts everything at risk. This sort of behaviour is unlawful, it's ugly, it will not be tolerated. But I do think it's important to say that the behaviour of a few should not be seen to cast aspersions or define the entire industry, an industry of proud, hard-working men and women. And I am gutted to have to shut this industry down, but be in no doubt there are 350 cases in construction, over 150 different sites during August and September. This is real. And unless we took this action, and unless we see compliance higher, then we will continue to see the spread of this virus, and that puts everything at risk. I think I've made my position very clear. We support police, we thank police, and we don't believe that this is something where Victorians should form a view about all construction, about all tradies. Nothing could be further from the truth. I think that was quite a diverse crowd, and not necessarily in the best sense of that word. Many different people acting appallingly under the guise of a protest or a demo. That's not what it was. There was something very different to that. And I now ask Minister Neville to add to my comments, and then the Chief Commissioner can take you through, to the extent that it's appropriate, what happened yesterday, what's happening today, and then we're happy to take a few questions. And I do regret that I do have to go and attend to other matters, but the Deputy Premier and relevant health officials will be out for the normal update of the day a bit later on in the morning. Minister.
So I'd like to just start with thanking Victoria Police members, every single one of them who over the last few days have been out dealing with violent, unacceptable behaviour from a number of, thugs, basically, thugs that have sought to cause harm, cause injury to the community and cause injury to our police officers, and we've seen that. We had three injuries yesterday. That's on top of the injuries we've seen over the weekend and the day before. That's just unacceptable. Our police officers turn up to work. They should be able to feel safe in doing that work on behalf of Victorians. And they've been doing an amazing job over the last 2 years, nearly 2 years now, in enforcing the Chief Health Officer directives. And that's what they've been tasked to do. They haven't shied away from that. And they should be able to go about doing that work without the behaviour that we saw yesterday. It's a real slap in the face to the Victorian community who have been doing it very tough. We all want these restrictions to be over, and what we saw yesterday were people that were willing to put that at risk. I mean, every police officer wants the lockdown to be over as well. So we've got to work together so that we cannot see this sort of behaviour again. So if you're thinking about coming into the city today to cause violence and harm, just know that Victoria Police will deploy whatever tactics they need to in order to ensure that you are held accountable. And they have my full support in deploying whatever tactics they need to ensure that these thugs, these violent thugs, are unable to cause further harm to our city and to our community. So again, to all those police officers who have been out over the last few days, putting their lives on the line for the Victorian community and to help us get out of that, I thank you. You've got our support, the government support, my support as Police Minister. And again, the message, do not come into the city today if your intention is to continue to spread this virus and continue to cause violence on our streets. I'll ask the Chief Commissioner to say a few words.
Thanks, Minister. I held a press conference yesterday, so have already spoken about the outcome of yesterday's protests. We did see 62 arrests. It was a protest following on from the day before outside the CFMEU where we saw violence as well. And we saw, of course, the protest on the weekend, on Saturday, a freedom rally. So we've had significant unrest in Melbourne over the last few days. Look, I certainly understand that people are fatigued, they're tired, they've got grievances and they're frustrated. But now is not the time for protest. The Chief Health Officer is still determined that there are guidelines in place that prohibit mass gatherings, large gatherings and groups of people, and the risk of the spread of the coronavirus is quite real in those gatherings. So we will do everything we can to stop the gatherings in compliance with the Chief Health Officer guidelines. We don't get to pick and choose what are the laws we enforce. I'd simply say this. I would implore, I'd plead, I'd ask any other word that I can use to say to people who are contemplating coming in here today to protest, do not do so. You're not going to be welcomed with open arms, I can assure you of that. What is going to occur, Victoria Police have planned, we have significant tactics in place, we will be agile in our response, we will be very swift in our response, and conduct as we've seen yesterday and the previous day will not be tolerated. I'm not going to step through the amount of police that we're going to have on deck today. I'm not going to talk about what our tactics are. Save to say that those tactics will be different and we have significant police numbers. I do not want to be giving any context whatsoever to anybody who may be considering coming in here to engage in unlawful activity. Just in regards to what we have seen in the last few days, we've seen groups that do contain people from the construction industry, they do contain trade